I would like to say one thing, that there's been some attempt to make people feel that there's no hope, that this situation is so difficult, there's hopelessness. And I want to say, yes, I said from the beginning when oil prices began to fall and fell by 50%, that this would be a tough year. But there's hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And you know, the reason is because we have worked so hard before as a country under this administration to lay the basis for us to be able to exit this situation and get back on a good path. And that is what gives me hope. Why do I say that? First of all, let's come back to the fact that we now have in Nigeria what is the largest economy on the continent. And that is important. We have to keep stressing it because it means we've got the sectors, we've got the base, which will enable us to carry out that diversification and be able to have a stronger economy in the long term that creates the jobs and gives our young people hope. So it is very important to note that. We didn't know all that before. When you look at the structure of the economy now, you see that the growth, all the analysts have shown that growth from this economy has come from the non-oil sector, that agriculture has been doing rather well. And that comes also to the present situation because agriculture has been doing well. We've had produced more food than ever before. 21 million metric tons more food. We've produced paddy. 1.1 million metric tons a couple of years ago, 1.6 now. In fact, what I'm saying about rice is even dry season farming, not to talk of paddy. And that we're on our way to really reducing our dependence on food imports. So those are some of the things. Because we've got food, prices have kept relatively stable and reasonable. You can go around markets. We've gone round from different places to check, and prices of foodstuffs are reasonable, unlike other oil-producing countries. That is helping us manage this situation for the average Nigerian. I know this is of concern to Nigerians, you know, manufacturers looking for more foreign exchange, others, people pay their school fees and tuition abroad, even ordinary people. But I also feel that with this strong base we have, if we just keep steady, we will be able to exit and the value of the Naira will strengthen because we've got the different sectors. Now, there are two ways we will have to do it. And I think this is what Nigerians want. Instead of just depending on oil, we have to look at what are the two ways you can strengthen your reserves. Because that's the way you strengthen the value of your currency, isn't it? There are two ways. One is to reduce your demand for imports. And that's why I think our demand for agricultural imports is very important for us to watch that. Reduce your demand for other goods. And that is why I've always encouraged Nigerians that even strengthening the value of the Naira, it's not just government action alone. It's in our hands. If we buy more of what is made here in our own country and reduce the demand of things made outside, that means we can increase our reserves, that the central bank does not have to continue giving money to import all those goods that we don't need. The second way is for us to start exporting things other than oil. And that's where, again, I feel encouraged because we are laying the foundation for that. You recall that in the 60s, we were exporting groundnut, cocoa, cotton, rubber, so many agricultural products, even palm oil, and then we suddenly didn't keep up. We have the ability to go back to those, but not just exporting the raw material. First, now we add value to it, and we already have people in these sectors adding value. What we need to do is to expand growing the cocoa, processing it here for our own internal demand, and then exporting. Then we earn what? Foreign exchange. There is even an area which is unexploited, where we can earn foreign exchange, which we are not. When I go around the continent, every single African woman wants Nigerian clothes. And I know this will sound strange to people, but we are here. Don't we import shirts from the UK, pink and other things? Don't we import trousers? But people are here demanding our own clothes, and yet we are not able to get together as an industry, the fashion sector, to make clothes we can export. We'll be sitting here and some other West African country will exploit it. But there's an opening. I'm now happy that the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment is organizing and working with the textile industry and the fashion industry to export, because we can earn so much from that. Imagine dressing the whole of Africa and what we can earn from it. So those are the two ways. If we now earn foreign exchange and we conserve by using our own products, we will be able to add more to our reserves, which will underpin the value of our currency. No matter what government there is, a set of policies, a set of institutions that will support this country. And that's what I admire about the president when he talks. You know, he talks about how do we put in place things that will last. Whether I'm here or I'm not here is not the issue. It's laying in place the building blocks for the Nigerian economy. As I said, meeting our salary bill is very important to us and our pensions. The second thing is making sure that the health benefits that we've gathered in this economy, we don't lose it. Our children must be immunized. We cannot let down routine immunization, because you know what that means. Polio vaccination. We are almost close to eradicating polio. This administration has worked. We've eradicated guinea worm. We must make sure that all those medicines and vaccines are kept. HIV, AIDS, their treatment, all that. Then some very important infrastructure. We focus on doing that. You know, the president promised to build the second Niger bridge. That work is ongoing. I think some of the reporters have gone out there and they have noticed that the piling is going on. The work is ongoing. We're supporting that Lagos-Ibadan road. Very important. The rail, you know, completing some of the rail and making sure they are running. These are the ways that the average Nigerian can feel the impact of what this government is doing. I think it means a lot that I encountered some young Nigerians who didn't know what it meant to be in a train, because the train had never worked in this country. And now they can ride on a train. Very soon here, this Abuja-Kaduna line will be open. The Lagos-Kano line has been operating. Even the line from Enugu to Makurdi and so on. These are things that impact. And the road system so many roads that have been upgraded, constructed in this economy. Yes, we have many more, but we're on the good path. And we're asking, what is it? When you ride on the Lagos or Benin road, and you find that you can make your journey in half or 2/3 of the time it used to take, isn't that impact? When you go to some of our rural areas, you know, and you find that, you know, you have water, access to water has improved because boreholes were dug through the MDG's program, and they have solar lighting. That's its impact. And these are some of the things that we have started in this administration that are impacting. When you see that through all the efforts of supporting the private sector, we've created 1.4 million out of the 1.8 million jobs we need each year. That is impacting. Yes, the 400,000 people who have not yet gotten jobs that year, they will feel it. You will feel it if they are your relative, your son, your daughter still sitting at home. So we are not saying that we have met the mark, but we have gone a long way. And steadily we have made solid plans that, as we said, when we pass through this difficulty, you will see that continuing on that path. The president has said he will do 2 million jobs a year, because we are so close to the 1.8, and we've got the specific sectors generating these jobs. It's not just the special programs we are doing. Those ones generate entrepreneurs, which is very important. But sectoral investment is critical, and that's what we are focusing on. I have not mentioned the housing sector. You asked me impacting the average Nigerian. You know, when you start something, it takes time to grow. We started this housing thing now. And we had yesterday a meeting with the CEOs of all the primary mortgage institutions to review. You remember that 10,000 mortgage thing? And then we had 66,000 people applying. So they virtually finished screening all. And about 40,000 qualify out of the 66. They started disbursing. And as at now, yes, first it was 33 people that had actually received money and bought homes. Yesterday, by the time we checked, another 300. So we have now 330, yes, it's 300. 333 people. That is how you start. We targeted 10,000, and the disbursement, meaning these people are living in their own homes. And this means that the developers who have built and those who are planning to build have customers. And we are looking at how to help them. Some of them are saying that their big problem is the down payment, because they have to put 20% down, isn't it? And so we are working with PENCOM to see how people can tap into that as is done elsewhere. For small and medium-sized businesses in this country, which employ the most people, they employ 66% of the adult population, contribute 45% of our national income. We have opened up several avenues to support them, not on an ad hoc basis, but apart from what the central bank has done, first the 220 billion fund, then a 300 billion. We have now, the president kicked off 2 days ago the launch of a new development bank. We have said, let us institutionalize access to funding, but differently. For the first time, when this bank starts working by the end of this year, SMEs are going to have access to term finance. They can borrow for 5 years, for 7 years, for 10 years. We've never had this before in Nigeria. They will have 1.5 years of grace, meaning that when they borrow, they won't have to worry about paying back for 1.5 years. That will give them time to organize themselves. This new development bank is a wholesale bank. Its job is to mobilize financing and liquidity for the agriculture bank, for the bank of industry, for the commercial banks, to now microfinance banks to lend to SMEs. So at these terms that I spoke about. So when you look at this and you look at the situation we are in, and you know that we have this, just to describe 2 areas, SMEs and agriculture, you see that there is hope to exit, and that we've laid the platform for this economy to emerge from the present situation. We've, entered negotiations with the international financial institutions, that is specifically African Development Bank and World Bank. They had some resources for us already programmed. We've asked them, which is on the borrowing plan, we asked them to turn these resources into budget support for us, so that we can also get, and we're negotiating for 2 billion that will come in foreign exchange. And remember that the terms for these loans from the African Development Bank and the World Bank are quite reasonable compared to what we can get outside, 3 to 4%. And this is money that they had aside for us, and we've decided to draw on it and use it to bring in budget support. It will come in foreign exchange. We'll be able to get the Naira equivalent given to us by the central bank. $2 billion. It will disburse in 2 tranches. And when we've advanced in negotiating this with them. This will bring in some needed foreign exchange that will now be available, you know, also for our private sector people to have access to. So it will alleviate the situation, and this is something new that we started working on, but we've been working day and night with them because we recognize we have to address the needs of the manufacturers and others in the population. So that's one more thing in this time that we're talking about, and I think that will also help ameliorate the situation. The tenure of the loan, oh, there will be the standard tenure. We will probably have about 5 years grace before we have to repay, and repayment over 25 years. I can tell you, as someone who was central in the negotiation of the forgiveness of our debts and the cancellation, that we are not near the situation we were before. In terms of external debt, you know, I can tell you that our external debt is only about 2% of our GDP. Remember that when we went to negotiate, you know, we were almost at past 70% of GDP, and most of it was external. We had hardly any domestic debt at that time. The situation has flipped. You know, we have been very, very careful on our debt. We are prudent in terms of the way that we borrow, and we have more of domestic debt. Actually, what we are trying to do now is reduce domestic borrowing so we don't crowd out the private sector. And then, you know, we've got some foreign borrowing, but it's only 2% of our GDP. You know, the domestic debt, both federal and government and state, is about 12% of GDP. So together, it's about 14% of GDP. It's actually 13.81, but I'm rounding it up to 14%. And the norm or threshold for countries of Nigeria's size is about 40-something% of GDP, so we are well below that. However, we also look at something called debt service to revenue. So you cannot just say our debt is low compared to our GDP, which is what the world measures. That's good. But you also have to look at your ability to repay. And that's one of the reasons why we are very prudent. Because debt service to revenue, we don't want it to increase too much. Right, 2 years ago, it was 19% of GDP. It has risen to 22%, and we don't want it to go too much beyond that. I think if we get to something like 25%, we really now need to be very strict. And we are strict. We have been able in this administration to repay outright some of the domestic debt we owed. When it came due, we paid back 75 billion Naira, if you recall. And that was a very good thing, instead of just rolling it over. So I think our debt management, countries are coming here to request our assistance in debt management. I want you to know, the UK government named Nigeria's debt management office as one of the best in the world. And even as we speak, South Sudan, other countries that are just starting up, have come to us for expertise in managing debt. So we are managing it. We are not complacent at all. We are not complacent. And